My name is Aaron Ladd, host of the Chiefs Squad Show. And when Kansas City needed him the most, Patrick Mahomes puts on his cape and creates one of the biggest wins of the season.
I'm Darren Smith, and with this biggest win of the season, how do the Chiefs follow up the rest of the way?
And I'm JC Pearson. Even at halftime, when things didn't look great, I went on record and said I still thought the Chiefs were going to win. We'll talk about it.
And I'm Chris Clark from Locked On Chiefs, and Kareem Hunt with a career day for Kansas City on the ground, something we didn't think we'd be talking about today.
Chiefs Kingdom, stand up. It's the Chiefs Squad. Everything Kansas City Chiefs every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from Arrowhead Stadium, the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Squad up. The Chiefs Squad Show starts now.
All right, we appreciate you joining us on this episode of the Locked On Chiefs Squad Show. Today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Kansas City beats the Indianapolis Colts 23-20 in overtime, thanks in part to a surge in the second half. But before we get to that and breaking down everything we think from instant reactions to the run game, to the MVP, Jonathan Taylor, possibly going MIA in this one, we want to remind you, comment, like, subscribe, do all those things to hype the channel. It means so much to us, and we appreciate having you here on the Locked On Chiefs Squad Show. Let's get right into it. Our instant reactions, 23-20. This is a game that Kansas City absolutely needed. They talked about it on the broadcast, playoff-type atmosphere, and Patrick Mahomes carries Kansas City to the sixth and very important win of the season. We'll go straight to you, JC. What are your instant takeaways? You said halftime you weren't too nervous. You were right. Congratulations on that. How do you think Kansas City was able to pull this one off?
Well, you know, we've talked about Patrick Mahomes, Kareem Hunt, but this defense played a great game. You know, you look at the scores in the first half, they were down, but, you know, that tip interception, that first drive. So, you know, they really only gave up one touchdown that first half and one big play. And then second half, I mean, they shut down Jonathan Taylor, did a great job there, forced a lot of 3-and-outs. And then offensively, the second half, the receivers finally started to get open and make some plays. And we'll talk as we go on how that happened, but they had to show up, and they really did.
Crazy.
Yeah, let me say this while it's quiet down here. It was, as JC kind of alluded to, it was the tale of two halves. The Chiefs don't know what they were really doing on the offensive side of football. As JC said, wide receivers had a hard time getting open. The Chiefs did actually commit to the run game first half of the game. Second half, of course, it was more of a balanced attack, but the defense stepped up when needed most.
Chris, what you think?
Absolutely huge game. Andy Reid did exactly what we did not think he could do. He continued to run the ball, and that is a huge storyline in this game. I'm not going to say the defense didn't play great. They played phenomenal, but Kareem Hunt having 30 rushes in this game, 104 yards, first Chiefs running back to go over 100 yards for a long time. He had an 18-yard run during this game. Just absolutely something that we didn't think that this team had in them. And I also have to wonder if the first RPO that led to the Patrick Mahomes interception caused him to feel like he had to run the ball more, because that was on him for making it obvious. And the Chiefs knowing, like everybody knowing, the Chiefs are going to throw the ball 90% of the time when they run RPOs.
We've talked about a tale of two halves. Let me just give you the second half breakdown before I toss it back to you, JC, because I know you fired up. Indianapolis starts off red hot. They get the turnover, but the second half, a completely different story. Only 18 yards from the fourth quarter on compared to 87 for Kansas City. And in the second half, Indy goes field goal, punt, where Kansas City goes touchdown, punt, field goal to win the game. JC, hop back in. We've been talking about this forever. Commit to running the ball. You have Kareem Hunt, this offensive line, which was without Trey Smith for a large part of the second half and overtime, overcomes that, commits to the run when they don't really necessarily want to, and it pays dividends down the stretch.
Oh, it was huge. And props to Kareem also, because Kareem did a fantastic job running the ball, getting those tough yards inside, and then Andy committing to it, like you said. And, Chris, that was a good point, because that first RPO, he really should have given the ball to Kareem. but he didn't do it and wanted to throw it and led to that interception. But the right read was to hand it off. So maybe after that, they called some definite runs. And then once they saw that they could do it, then they kept doing it, which is great and something that they don't normally do. And then it really paid dividends in the second half. And that's how the receivers got involved, because they weren't winning outside. So with the run and the play action and being able to open up the middle of the field with those linebackers stepping up, that's how those receivers got involved. And then this team started to make some plays.
It's a lot of fun watching this team play like they did at times, being able to move the ball. The Colts really never stopped them on defense. It wasn't a matter until they got in the red zone. Let me be clear. Sorry. But leading up to the red zone, the Colts never really stopped them. Kansas City was able to move the ball. Kansas City was able to do what they wanted to do on offense before they got in the red zone, and then they just couldn't get it done in the red zone. But let's also give the defense credit, because what did the defense do? They stepped up, as you said, a lot of punts in the second half, but they also did something that no other team has done in 30 drives for the Colts. They get inside the 10. They've been scoring touchdowns. Kansas City held them to a field goal, changed everything in this game.
And you know what? We've been on this guy all year. Now you got to give him his props, because he really did show up today. And Chris Jones was disruptive.
Don't say
plays.
We call Darren out.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so you need to talk to him in the locker room.
Hey, hold on.
You may not get slammed today since it was good.
Hold on. First of all, you want me to give credit to somebody who's supposed to be already be doing it. That's what he's getting paid to do, JC. So he's getting
to do it. Yes. So you still have to go out and do it. Yes.
Yeah, that's what he's supposed to be doing.
Okay. And he did it. So give him credit, because it was big today. It was huge. Okay. Well, you go in the locker room.
I'm gonna hold on, JC. Hold on. Hey, hold on. I give him just as much credit as I give you credit for raising your kids. You're supposed to do that. That's what he's supposed to. He's supposed to go out there and make big plays. That's what they pay him $30 million for.
Okay. Well, you go in the locker room and you tell them, hey, you played like you were supposed to play.
Exactly.
Today, so you get no credit.
Nope.
No, Indianapolis goes 3 and out.
You say it too.
Indianapolis goes 3 and out in their final 3 drives of regulation, and a big reason why that happened is because the defense tightened up. Chris Jones, the linebackers. I mean, this game could have been completely different if Nick Bolton doesn't run into Shamari Connor and they come down with Daniel Jones's pick.
I'll see you all when I get out the locker room.
Sounds good. There was a lot of plays here where the defense could have flipped it. There were turnovers. We always talk about on this platform, well, where are the turnovers defensively? They've been playing well defensively. The numbers back that up. But this huge stat that really determines wins and losses, turnovers, just where have they been? There were a lot of turnover-worthy plays from Daniel Jones that second half. He did not look as comfortable. In the first half, he was sitting back and making some of the plays, finding his receivers in space. He was not having the same type of luck like that in the second half. And I think a lot of that has to do with the credit to Steve Spagnuolo turning up the blitz. We know he's never shy to do that. Did it when it mattered the most. And really rattled the Indiana offense down the stretch. I mean, they couldn't even get a first down on some of those crucial drives down the stretch.
I mean, we talked about, make them one-dimensional, put it on Daniel Jones, and that's what they were able to do. They were able to shut down Jonathan Taylor for the most part. He had one big run on a short yardage situation, but for the most part, they were able to keep him in check and put the burden on Daniel Jones. And like you said, Aaron, there were a couple throws where he was lucky they weren't intercepted. And I know one of them, if Nick Bolton even just looked for the ball ended up hitting him in the chest.
Yep.
If he would have just turned around, he probably would have scored with that interception. But, great job by the defense, though. All in all, Drew Tranquil did a great job of coming downhill, being aggressive, and making some big plays in the backfield on Jonathan Taylor. And, Spags dialed up some good ones, and they worked today when they needed to.
Chris, I got a question for you. What can a win like this do for the mentality of this group against Indy at home, back against the wall, especially in the fashion that it happened, to come back, come from behind against a team that's supposed to be one of the top dogs in your conference? You're fighting for your life. You're scrambling. People are talking, maybe y'all might not even make the playoffs this year. We've had that conversation on this platform. Where does a win like this in overtime add to the mentality of this group that's been in this position so many times deep in the year, getting everybody's best shot? What can they take from this?
I think it's huge. And this was a game where it was an over my dead body game by Patrick Mahomes in the second half. He just stepped up and said, okay, this is what we have to do. We have to go win this game. If we don't win this, we're not probably going to make the playoffs. And he went and took over. And you saw that with the way he ran the ball, even in short yardage situation down by the goal line. He stepped up and ran. And I'm sitting there going, okay, just go down. You got a first down. No, he wanted a touchdown. It wasn't a situation where he was going down. He said, no, I'm going to go take this over and I'm going to do this. And that is what leads your entire team. Like, he has those moments. And the thing that has kept Kansas City from being able to be successful this year is they've tried to put too much on his shoulders to where the rest of the team isn't stepping up. But when he plays like that and you see him do those types of things, it inspires the entire team. And right now, you're going into a short week, going to be against the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas, in another game where you pretty much you have to win out at this point. Like, I will say this though, of all the games that they could lose in the next with the rest of the games, the Dallas game is one of those where it's not as big of a deal if you lose. You should win it, but if you lose, it's not as big of a deal because it's not against an AFC team. So it doesn't hurt you in that regard. It hurts you in the standings, obviously. But I think the winning the division's probably out already at this point. Making the playoffs is going to be something that they're going to focus on. But I think the entire team, watching what Patrick Mahomes did and some of the young guys that haven't been there before, like, yeah, Suamati played a little bit last year. Worthy played a little bit last year, but it wasn't the same type of scenario last year. And now they're getting that type of experience. Jaden Hicks is getting more experience on defense. Chris Roland Wallace is getting more experience on defense. There's a lot of different guys that haven't had this type of experience. And now they're in a situation where it's going to be basically a playoff atmosphere for the rest of the season.
There was so much talk this week about leadership, too. Everybody was questioning Kansas City's leadership. There's so much talk about these guys off the field and what they bring to Kansas City and their big stars and all this attention. People were questioning their leadership. And there was moments in time in this game where the camera catches what leadership actually looks like in action. I'm thinking about Travis Kelce embracing Kareem Hunt after the fumble there. I'm thinking about Brian Cook after another 3-and-out that the defense forced, talking straight to Patrick Mahomes saying, go get us some points, man. Like, we still believe in you. We're still bought in. Like, this is truly a team effort. One of our first podcasts, one of our first Chief Squad show, we're questioning if Kansas City should go to the kicker well, if they need to go look at some competition for Butker and how Butker can get fixed and what was going on there. He wins you this game. You don't win this game without the conversions from Harrison Butker. This game was a shining light, and JC, I'm going to toss it back to you on this one. This game and this win and the fashion in which it happened was a shining light on how Kansas City's leadership can actually lead to wins and can actually turn games that look like they're not actually they're gonna pull it off, or it might go the other direction. They lean on those guys that have always showed up and their leadership, and it shined at Arrowhead today.
Well, yeah, no question. And, those guys, they've been there all year for the most part. I mean, you look at the big losses again. Denver was a last-second field goal, and Buffalo was a one-score game, So it's not like they've been getting blown out. They just been not making the plays, the big plays at the right time, and they've been right there. Penalties or whatever. They had some penalties again today, but they just kept battling, and you never know when the big play is going to happen. And they finally started, doing some things, getting some other guys involved in the second half. I talked about the receivers. Where are they at? They can't win outside. Finally created some things to give them an opportunity to win. And you see none of those were outside the numbers. They were all in the middle of the field on those crossing routes. So they made an adjustment there. They stuck with the run, and then defensively they stepped up, and it was huge. And again, it started with the leaders, the veterans on the team, and it's got to continue that way, from here on out, because every game is huge. And, I can tell you what they're saying in the locker room right now and what they will say, because they're not even going to watch the film of this game. This game is over. You got to get right to Dallas tomorrow. This win, as big as it is and as huge as it was, means nothing if you lose next week. So this game is over now. Let's enjoy it today. Tomorrow, forget all about it, and they're moving on to Dallas.
I know it wasn't sexy all the time, Chris, but it did feel like a step forward for Kansas City's offense. They found a way to continue to move the chains and found a way to win the game.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. 150 yards rushing, 350 yards passing for Patrick Mahomes. You have a 500-yard game against a defense that has played very well, and against a defense that in Luo Anarumo, who probably should be a head coach somewhere, but he has had Patrick Mahomes' number throughout his career, and Mahomes was able to find a way to get it done. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't sexy, but it was one of those things where they take it down, they get the ball, and they get it in the end zone when they need to. They get the points when they need to. And I will say this, the thing that I think Indianapolis is going to kick themselves for, you don't take the ball first in that scenario in overtime.
It's terrible.
In my opinion.
I don't understand that. It makes
choice.
no sense.
It was a terrible choice. You don't do that because then you don't have fourth down. Kansas City had fourth down if Indianapolis scores or does something. But you don't have fourth down if you give up the ball. And, in that scenario, Kansas City was able to get it done. And we're going to talk about Jonathan Taylor a little bit later, but I have to say this before we get there in an instant reaction. This defense came to play. They went and they said, we're not going to let him beat us. And they tried to force Daniel Jones to beat them, and he showed that he could not.
All right, we're going to talk more about Jonathan Taylor. I also want to mention one specific Chiefs player that I think their second half surge really spurred on this victory. We're recapping a 23-20 win for the Kansas City Chiefs as they improved to 6-5 on the year. You're listening to the Chiefs Squad Show here on the Locked On Podcast Network. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this sports season, whether you're following the NFL, NBA, or both. There's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere Prize Picks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. The new Stacks feature is a game changer. You can now pick more on Steph's points, threes, and assists in the same lineup. Plus, if one of your players leaves early with an injury, the injury reboot saves our lineup from a loss. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. It is great to be right here on the Chiefs Squad Show on the Locked On Podcast Network. JC Pearson, I think he called this one exactly. He's joining us, and so is Chris Clark. Darren Smith is getting choked out by Chris Jones in the Chiefs locker room right now, hopefully, after some of the mess he's been talking about the Chiefs defense this year. Obviously, the Chiefs defense stands tall, and that leads to this big win as Kansas City tries to climb up the AFC playoff picture. But I do not think Kansas City gets this win without the play of Rashee Rice in the second half. They called him the Yak King in his rookie year. He got a bunch of yak in the second half. I believe he had 9 receiving yards in the first half, finishes with 8 catches, 141 total yards. That 47-yard catch in the fourth quarter really helps Kansas City build that momentum, find some confidence. And it's just so confusing sometimes. Whoever wants to take this, JC or Chris, I was texting one of my buddies in KC in the first half. Why isn't he involved as much? It just seems like he goes quiet sometimes. When he was gone, that everybody got to eat's offense was passing it around a little bit more, but it just seems like sometimes he goes dormant. When he goes dormant, you see them struggle. When he really gets the ability to lengthen out and extend after the catch, obviously we'll monitor what the hamstring injury is with him that was kind of hobbling him down the stretch. But some of those long catches, they really helped Kansas City gain some momentum in that second half comeback.
Yeah, I'll start with that. We knew it was going to be tough for those guys to win outside. We talked about that earlier in the week against Sauce Gardner, Charvarius Ward coming back, but he has to be able to win outside. Even when things are tough, he's got to be able to have more than 3 catches and 9 yards in a half. The second half, you see where all his yards came were crossing routes, and a few of them were against zone. And same with Xavier Worthy. You got to show up. And where's Hollywood? Did he play today? Those
one
guys,
catch for 10 yards.
Exactly. So no, not really. Those guys have got to show up, man. And second half, we saw what they could do more. But now maybe those are the kind of routes that you got to call for him in order for him to win against good man cover guys. Is both him and Xavier both. Maybe they've got to run more crossing stuff and not stay outside. But good thing that they both showed up in the second half, made those adjustments and called routes that those guys can get open on. And the run game helped that too, because those backers now are thinking run and stepping up and not dropping in depth. And that opens up the middle of the field.
I watched Rice play in the first half and was wondering why they just weren't going to him. It just didn't seem like he was part of the game plan. Then the second half, he comes out and he has these huge games, and he likes to work in the middle of the field, and the Colts really were running defenses where they were always having somebody in the middle of the field for the most part. I'm not going to say it was every single time, but the couple of times they didn't, Rice found a lot of room to work in the middle of the field and had some big gains. And you talk about Hollywood Brown, I don't know what to think of that situation, because he started the season, and I'm not going to say he looked great, but he at least was doing something. And ever since Rice has come back, he's kind of disappeared. You're sitting here thinking that this offense is going to take a step forward with Rice back in Hollywood at least producing something, and Xavier Worthy being able to produce. And I do also want to say props to Xavier Worthy. That catch he had near the sideline where he had to reach for it is got to be very, very tough to make with the shoulder injury he's dealing with. And so props to him for getting that. But, this wide receiver core, they've got to get it figured out. One of the things that was said before this game started was that Tyquan Thornton was going to have a bigger role in this offense. Didn't see it. They had, I only think, one target the entire game, and it was a deep shot that wasn't really a great shot to begin with, in my opinion. I think they need to get him more involved in the offense. He's proven that he can do something for this offense. Get Juju involved as well.
More numbers on the second half, and I'll pass it back to you, JC. No. More numbers on the second half. Kansas City is 13-5 in first downs. Total offensive plays 41-26, 235 net yards for Kansas City in that second half, and 1 for 3 in the red zone, where Indianapolis goes 0 for 2. That's the difference. This game was decided in the red zone. I mean, I was queuing up the show and doing some pre-production stuff around halftime, and Kansas City wasn't having the same success. And then Kareem Hunt has the fumble. You cannot reiterate how big of a moment that is. Mm-hmm. Like, after that fumble, if Indianapolis does anything to extend the lead or add points, we're having a completely different post-game show here. But the defense steps up. Chris Jones, who will tell Darren Smith exactly what time it is in the locker room, helps guide that defense. And they keep Indianapolis at bay and help Kansas City just offensively stay in it. They just needed to find a little something. Rashee Rice in the second half, 4 targets, 4 catches, 111 yards. There's your offense. There's your surge. There's your getting in field goal position, if you will.
Really quick, the thing that stands out to me, you lose the turnover battle by 2 and you beat an 8-2 team. They didn't play great, but that's still saying something. You lose the turnover battle by 2 and you still beat an 8-2 team that's basically been beating everybody so far this season. So they're moving in the right direction. Hopefully they can get some stuff figured out, and we'll figure out the injuries. That's going to be a big question going into the next week as well.
Well, I mean, they dominated the game when you look at it. The first half, they dominated, time of possession. They dominated, yards. They dominated everything. They just couldn't score touchdowns in the red zone. And, they were down at halftime. But again, that first drive, the tip interception, obviously is a very, very short field, and they score there. But, offensively, we like you said earlier, we were moving the ball. Defensively, we were playing well. And, so I never really thought, we talked earlier in the week, but I thought they were going to have success against Jonathan Taylor because, the guys don't really run on this defense. We said that, Cook had success in Buffalo, but that was rare, and so I thought that they'd be able to be hold up against the run. And they did that. And, I mean, you got to give them a lot of credit, but offensively, you can't, I know we talked about, Chris, about making adjustments and stuff at halftime and stuff, but the bottom line is just guys have got to come out and make plays. And, whatever they call first half, second half, whatever it is, guys have just got to win. And second half, unfortunately, they started to make plays.
Kansas City overcame a lot of their bad penalty timing as well, too. Overcame some of the injuries as well, but it seemed like penalties against Denver specifically were backbreakers, and the offense just couldn't find a way to overcome the holding on first down or a holding at the wrong time. most of the penalties this time around, we could talk about that first penalty as well, or the one that wipes off the Kelce touchdown. That was another one where it was like,
yeah.
And then on the broadcast, they say it could possibly be reviewed. What do we make of that? What do we make of Juwan Taylor, the Juwan Taylor experience? That's going to be a conversation we're having here going into the offseason. The penalties today weren't backbreakers, but still, you want to clean some of that stuff up down the stretch.
You have to, right? I mean, we've been talking about that all year. But yeah, that one, it wasn't a face mask, but it could have been a hold. First they said you can review that or challenge it. And, if you can challenge it, you can't change the call to a holding. It's either face mask or not. Then they came back and said, well, you can't change it. You can't challenge it. It can only be challenged up top. And I'm like, well, why didn't they challenge it then up top? But, that's here nor there. But, I thought he got a bad break on that face mask call. But, was it a hold? Yeah, it was a hold anyway. And then real quick, you talked about that Juju catch, Chris. But one of the biggest catches in this game was Noah Gray on the one that he got knocked out on. And I was wondering, was that actually a catch? Did he control the ball? The ball never hit the ground, but it just laid on him, and I don't know, obviously I guess they consider that possession, but man, that was a huge play and catch for this team.
It was absolutely huge. I mean, you look at that specific play, if he doesn't catch that, it's 4th and 8. Maybe they're able to convert. Who knows? We'll never know. But it's a worse situation than the 4th and 3. Obviously, they got the 4th and 3. But let's not also forget Noah Gray also probably dropped a touchdown pass a couple of plays before that, running down the sideline. Like, I love Noah Gray as a second tight end for this offense. He is a phenomenal player. He knows what he's supposed to do, and he does it well. That really hurts watching him get knocked out of the game like that. And my guess is there's no chance he plays on Thursday, which actually probably means we'll see Wiley for the first time this season. But you watch this offense, and with all the weapons that they have, it's inexcusable not to be able to be a little bit more consistent. And yeah, I'm glad that they were able to run the ball. I'm glad that they were able to get that going. But they have to be able to get their wide receivers working consistently and winning at the point of attack consistently. And until they do that, this offense is going to struggle. The nice thing is shouldn't really be a defensive struggle against the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas doesn't really play defense very much. So they have a week to get right there, but offensively, they need to get some stuff figured out. I still love the second half surge. I love that they were running the ball as much as they were, because that was impressive. Even when they weren't able to run it successfully in the second half, they stuck with it and they continued to run the clock, which is really important. In 82 plays on offense, you should be winning a game if you're going to be running that many plays, period.
Yeah, I got some more numbers behind that, Chris. Kansas City has 5 drives with double-digit plays. They had a 17 drive, a 13-play drive, a 10-play drive, an 11-play drive, and a 15-play drive. Of those 5 drives with double-digit plays, only one of them ended in a touchdown. The rest of them netted field goals only. If you could turn 2 or 3 of those into touchdowns, this is a 2-score game. It's not a 1-score overtime game. If you could find ways to finish those drives off in the end zone as opposed to Harrison Butker kicks. But I think it shows the points that we've been talking about on this platform. Consistency with running the football, staying ahead of the chains. It keeps the penalties from being those backbreakers where Mahomes feels like he has to shoulder the whole thing. And I think a good job, I'll toss it back to you, JC, before we go to break. The broadcast was really breaking down how Mahomes can be just a tick more patient in the pocket to kind of avoid some of those speeding up. JC, you said it on our last week, like he's going through his progressions a little too fast. He needs to kind of wait and trust his teammates that eventually something will come open. It was a couple plays in the red zone where it didn't exactly work. But I think if Mahomes just holds his water just a half second more, it's easy to say from a podcast, Mike, and not exactly in the pocket. Maybe some of these double-digit long play drives end up in touchdowns.
Yeah, and early in the game, he was doing that. He was staying in the pocket and going through his reads and making some good throws. But then when it got tight, Tiger doesn't lose his stripes, right? He starts looking for a lane again and running around and, trying to make a big play down the field and that kind of stuff. It worked out again today. But, yeah, they did a good job of pointing that out. But he is who he is, and he's not going to be a guy that's going to just stay in the pocket all the time. And you got to live with it and die with it. But he's going to make more plays than he doesn't, and they're willing to live with that.
All right, let's take a quick break here on the Chiefs Squad Show and Locked On Podcast Network. When we come back, we'll reset. We'll talk some run game. I'll hand out my MVP award, and maybe we'll be rejoined by Darren Smith. Maybe he'll be in a brace or something. We'll be right back. The NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. Between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout is frustrating. That's why we use the Game Time app. It's the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price, plus all fees are included. So the price you see is the price you pay. I pulled up the Game Time app in just a couple taps. I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite NFL games as low as $100. The app made it super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. We are back in on the Chiefs Squad Show here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Aaron Ladd, JC Pearson, Chris Clark, and Darren Smith will be rejoining us after he gets out of a joyous locker room from Arrowhead Stadium. 23-20 is the final as Kansas City gets a very important win as they try to continue to climb up the AFC playoff ladder. My MVP is probably everybody's MVP. It's very obvious. Kareem Hunt has maybe not a career day, but obviously one of the best performances of the season when you consider what was on the line. 30 carries, 104 yards on the ground, a touchdown. His longest was 18. He also had 3 catches for 26 yards in the receiving game. I've been begging for it, man. I've been absolutely begging for it. Run the ball consistently. It'll help every other aspect of the passing game. It'll slow some things down. It'll keep you ahead of the chains. We had this big debate last week. Is it the Chiefs can't run the ball, or will the Chiefs just refuse to run the ball? And I found out we got the answer to that one today. They just refuse to run the football. They can when they want to, and they can do so against one of the game's best defenses, against one of the best teams in the AFC. I thought Kareem Hunt was a little too old. I thought it was a little too much tread on those tires. Absolutely not. Carried the load today and is a huge reason why they won this game. Kareem Hunt is my MVP.
Yeah,
hard to argue with that.
Yeah,
he played phenomenal. Sorry,
yeah,
JC.
I've always been a Kareem Hunt fan, and he got his opportunity today to carry the whole load for the most part and show that he could do it still. And like you said, Aaron, against one of the best defenses in the league. So, maybe now they adjust a little bit on how they play their offense and not put so much on 15. And now they know that, hey, Kareem can still carry the load when we need him. So, we just got to give him some carries. Good for him, man. I'm happy for him.
Interesting thing to me, I'm not trying to take anything away from Kareem Hunt. Patrick Mahomes, 4 carries for 7.5 yards a carry, 30 yards. It's not a huge deal when he runs. You expect him to do some running, but he started picking his lanes. He has not run as much so far this season. I do think that that's taken a little bit out of the game for the Chiefs. Not saying that he should be running on a regular basis, but he picks his times well and takes advantage when he has the ability to do that, and I do think that really helps. But again, as we talked about early on, all the RPOs that have been going to pass plays has been a question of, can they run the ball? Well, they're calling RPOs because they want him to run the ball, and he's been passing it. Today, I don't know if it was a matter of they just completely switched away from that, but they have the ability to run the ball and be between, have him under center and run the ball that way and do multiple different things off of it and give the ball to multiple different guys. It doesn't have to be just Kareem Hunt. Liked what I saw with Brashard Smith running the ball once. Didn't really care to see Clyde Edwards-Helaire out there.
But I don't know what we're doing there.
Yeah,
I don't know.
but you're still running the ball, and I think that's what's important. You can't have Patrick go back and throw the ball 50 times a game, and even in this one, he threw 46. So, I mean, yeah, it went to overtime. Yeah, he had an extra couple of plays there, but that's not exactly what you want to do. Andy Reid doesn't want to do that. He does want to run a little bit more, and they just haven't so far this year.
And this is without Trey Smith for some of those portions. We're going to be monitoring that injury and seeing. I believe it was an ankle, is what they said on the broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
The other guys
is
an ankle injury or knee?
No,
Ankle.
brutal looking injury. He got rolled
okay.
up on, and it was ankle.
The other, when we're talking about run game, now my next questions are these. What do the other guys offer? We know what Kareem has and what he can bring to the offense when he's healthy and getting the full complement of carries. But when we're talking about the Pachecos, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Rashard Smiths of the world, what can they give you? What can they bring you? Isaiah Pacheco, I think one of the Tracy Wolfson said that he was close this week, but they opted to just give him one more week so he'd be fully ready to go on the short week ahead of the Dallas game, which completely makes sense. Why risk it if you got to play 2 games in 5 days? Who's going to be in a similar conversation that we have that third pass catcher talk when we're like, okay, Kelce Rice, who's going to be the third guy to step up? Who's going to be the other ball carrier that kind of steadies Kareem Hunt and Patrick Mahomes when he needs to run? Like, it can't be Pat. We don't want him running around nonstop. We need a second guy. I mean, if Isaiah Pacheco comes in and gives you 8 for 50, 9 for 48. I mean, we're not asking for world beater stuff here. We're not asking for, because I'm willing to say now, and maybe this is not a hot take. I mean, Kareem Hunt's the RB1. Isaiah Pacheco has lost his job.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Isaiah's got to be that second guy, the guy that comes in, gives Kareem a blow every now and then. Rashard is what he is. He's a small guy. He's not going to really run the ball inside. He's going to be an outside guy and pass catcher and that kind of stuff, more of a third down guy. Although Kareem can be that guy also, but Pacheco is going to, just be the alternate guy. And even when Pacheco was healthy, what makes those guys different is Kareem is a true running back in terms of he makes guys miss. He's got a little wiggle to him. With Pacheco, yeah, you see a lot of energy, a lot of intensity. He just gets the ball and runs straight and runs hard. He doesn't make guys miss. He might run through a guy or so, but he doesn't necessarily have that wiggle, that running back wiggle. He runs like a real big guy that just runs it fast and straight ahead and a lot of energy. But Kareem is more of a kind of a slippery guy, can make guys miss and that kind of stuff. So I always felt like Kareem was the better running back of the two. And I think now it's going to be his job, from here on out this year.
Who started week 1? Who was the first running back out to carry against
Pacheco? Yeah, Pacheco was the guy. Yeah.
I still think that you're going to see probably, I don't know, between 8 to 10 touches from Pacheco against the Cowboys, maybe more if they're able to get a lead and they want to run the ball a lot. It's going to be curious to see who's available on the offensive line, because I do think that's also going to play into how much they're going to run and how they're going to run. But Rashard Smith gives you something too. I mean, what I like what they're doing with him is even on the plays where they bring him and Hunt on the field at the same time, and you have 2 running backs on the field, which doesn't happen a ton for Kansas City, but it has happened several times. You can give the ball to Smith, or you can throw the ball to Smith out in the flats. I mean, there's multiple different ways to get him the ball and get him involved and be useful as a running back. It doesn't have to be a guy that's running between the tackles. The only concern that I have is that Kareem Hunt is up there in age, and this is going to be a rough game for him to recover from, especially on a short week.
Tough part about playing your playoff games the week before Thanksgiving, and when your margin of error has shrunk down to where you basically have one game that you can lose the rest of the year if you're trying to win a Lombardi trophy. Now you're putting wear and tear on your guys' shoulders early, and you can't really think about, hey, let's steady a guy for December or January. Like, we have to it's all hands on deck every single week. And Pacheco at least gives you another body and another flexibility. But to your point, I really appreciate what they're doing with Rashard Smith. He's an athlete. He's an athlete who can make guys miss. Just get him in space. It doesn't matter where he lines up. Doesn't matter if he's a running back or how you classify him. Put him out there and let him make a play.
If you're not going to play Mitchell, why is he on the roster?
I don't get that.
And,
the Mitchell.
and the only reason I asked that question is because you actually have a guy that is, I believe, made a Pro Bowl, and Damian Pierce, who just got released from the Houston Texans. Could you make an addition, even if it's just a practice squad addition for a couple of weeks, to get him ready to come in and maybe help you in the second part of the season? You need somebody that can run the ball for you, and continuing to have Hunt run it 30 times a game while he was effective, I just don't think that that's going to hold up long term.
And I don't think he'll run the ball 30 times, going forward. I think today they played the way that teams always wanted to play the Chiefs and, keep Pat off the side, on the sideline. They wanted to keep that offense on the sideline, keep Jonathan Taylor on the sideline and that kind of. So they wanted to win the time of possession, control the ball. They were able to do that, fortunately. But I don't think that, they're going to continue to give him the ball as much, but we'll see what happens. And, they may go back to splitting the time with when Isaiah comes back and, see which one is kind of got the hot hand per se. But, I still think it's going to be tough to think that now all of a sudden they're just going to be unfortunately, Aaron, I know this is going to hurt, but I don't think they're going to go to a run first offense. They're just not.
You think this team can win a championship, JC?
I think they if they get things corrected, I think they have the pieces where they can. Absolutely. If they clean some things up penalty wise, they have all the pieces that you need. Offensively, they get those guys outside, and another thing is I think it won't be as bad outside because I don't think, very few teams have corners like Sauce Gardner and Charvarius came back, fresh legs, everything, and played very well also. But, not a lot of teams are going to have corners. And then Kenny Moore was inside in the slot. They're not going to have guys that can cover that many guys. So I think this team offensively, if they get some things straightened out, they have the talent to win it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they do have the talents. The question is, can they stay healthy and can they continue to find ways to make plays when they absolutely need them without having to put everything on Patrick Mahomes' shoulders? Because I think that's really been a lot of what the problems have been this season is he has had to try to carry the load for everything, and the rest of the players around him just haven't been consistent enough.
Because really, this game shouldn't have been close. No. When you look at it, if we score touchdowns in the red zone, which we normally do, right? We don't fumble in the red zone. Kareem, that was first fumble of the season, right? A lot of ifs, but if we don't throw that interception in the red zone, the first drive, but those are things you can clean up. And this game shouldn't have even gone to overtime, if you ask me. Again, so do they have the talent? Do they have the ability? Can they? Yes, they can.
Kansas City's first one-score victory of the season. They're 1-5 in one-score games this year. But you're right. It was kind of a carbon copy of a lot of the other one-score games that they've played earlier this year. Hey, if the ball bounces this way on this play and we avoid a penalty on this play,
yes,
our record is completely different. And it makes you regret, why did it take so long? Why did it get to week 12 where your back is against the wall against Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts for the light switch to finally flip? Hey, let's run the ball.
I think the interesting thing that you just said there is their first one-score victory this season. How big is that? Like, you start talking about how it's going to play out for the rest of the season and how this team is going to be moving forward. Yeah, it should have been maybe a 2-score win for Kansas City. Their offense played well enough, between the 20s, not necessarily when you get in the red zone, but between the 20s, they played well enough. But the question is can you be consistent and can you continue to move the ball and then put points on the board when you get inside the red zone? You have to do that. But how big is it for them to get their first one-score win after 5 straight losses? After what did they have? 17 in a row going back to 2023?
Yeah, 17
where they had won one-score games. I mean, and then just to be at 0-5, like you have to think that that's a little bit of a monkey on the back to an extent. where you're putting additional pressure on yourself. Now you got that off your shoulders. You see that you can do it. I do think that this is going to set them up to potentially go on a run. And again, when you look at who they're going to be playing on Thursday on Thanksgiving, that should not be a defensive battle. There should be a ton of points scored. The question is can you slow that offense down to the Cowboys?
That's the scary game. That's a trap game, I think. Yep. Coming off of a huge game like this, you go overtime. It's emotionally draining, and then now you got a short week. Now you got tomorrow. You come in and you try to recover a little bit. Tuesday you practice. Wednesday you get a little walkthrough early, and then you got to travel. And then you play on Thursday. It's tough. That's one that they've, the lead, you were talking about leadership earlier. That's where the leaders really have to step up this week and make sure everybody understands that, they've got to be ready to play Thursday, because it's going to be another tough game. It shouldn't be, but it will be, because they always are. And, it's going to be tough coming off a short week, but this win means nothing. They go down there and give that game away.
The Chiefs improved to 6-5, courtesy a 23-20 overtime win over the Indianapolis Colts. We have one more segment here on the Chiefs Squad Show in the midweek. We will talk about the MVP who goes MIA and how that went and how Kansas City made that possible. We'll be right back. All right, back in on the Chiefs Squad Show here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Aaron Ladd, J.C. Pearson, Chris Clark, and Darren Smith might not have made it out of the Chiefs locker room, is what it seems like.
All that big boy talking he was gonna do it. Chris Jones and this and that. He might be in the training room himself.
We'll check in with our guy. Final segment here. We're having some fun. Chiefs back in the win column. A big reason why is containing Jonathan Taylor. And Ryan Tracy talked about this in our midweek episode, avoiding the explosive play from Jonathan Taylor. That is what really has kind of spiked some of his numbers. Obviously, he's having a great year, MVP year, not taking anything away from him. But some of these 80-yard runs that you have against the Atlanta Falcons, those kind of smear some of the numbers and make them look a little different. I know he was averaging 5 yards per carry coming into this one. A completely different story Sunday at Arrowhead, 16 carries, 58 yards, 3.6 yards on average, no scores, the longest run for 27 yards. And even that one didn't even really burn you too much, because I don't think they get points out of that drive. I'll have to go back and do some research. Steve Spagnuolo had a game plan, and they pointed it out on the broadcast for those who were watching. They all rallied to the football, and this is one of the strengths of Kansas City's defense is run defense. They've had a lot of success this year with guys of the like a James Cook and Ashton Genty, Brian Thomas Jr. Like they've contained some of these explosive backs. Sunday, another example of that. Jonathan Taylor really didn't have an impact on this game Sunday.
No, he didn't, and great job by this defense, this run defense, the tackling defense, everybody rallying to the ball, maintaining leverage. And, he only got out one time. And then, like you said, that didn't really hurt us. It got a first down, but it didn't really hurt us in terms of score. So did a good job. And, this run defense has been good for a long time. Other than the Buffalo game was the one game that running back got over 100 yards. So I had a lot of confidence that they could do that, put the game on Daniel Jones's shoulder, and they were able to somewhat shut him down and make the plays when they needed to be made.
Chris, you muted.
27 yards is the longest carry for Jonathan Taylor. You take that out of this, he's 15 carries for like 26, 27 yards.
Oof.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I understand that's not how that works, but they held him in check the entire game. And that is not something that I figured that they were going to do. And at the time, if you go back and watch that play, it's a 3rd and 1. And you're thinking, okay, if they can get the ball back here, it's huge. Well, they weren't able to get the ball back. He goes off for 27 yards, but I think you're right. I don't think it really hurt them in this game. Stopping Jonathan Taylor and keeping him to what they did, I think, is a phenomenal show by the defense. I will say, JC, the biggest difference between Cook and Taylor is Cook has a quarterback that you feel threatened by. I don't think the Chiefs really felt threatened by Jones. Even though he's played well this season, I don't think that they felt threatened by him. So it makes it a little bit easier to stop the run.
Darren
Absolutely.
Smith is back. He survived his one-on-one Royal Rumble with Chris Jones. We're talking Jonathan Taylor. We talked Rashee Rice. We talked Kareem Hunt. What were your big takeaways from this one?
That the Chiefs actually committed to the run game in today's game, including overtime, of course. And I know you all probably already talked about it. Kareem, rushed for over 100 yards, probably since 2018, since he was last with the Chiefs, I believe. So, good for him. Got a chance to briefly talk to him in the locker room. I did talk to Chris. I did say what I said I was going to say. As you see, I'm still here to tell the tale. But but overall, I was impressed with the commitment that they had, because I know that's something that you have been talking about for the last couple of games about the Chiefs committing to the run, things of that nature. And there was still some question marks as it relates to the clock management, but overall, Chiefs were very impressive running the football.
Contain Jonathan Taylor. I also thought they had a good plan for Tyler Warren. I had some concerns coming into this matchup about the tight ends. Tight ends had kind of burned this defense in the past. Tyler Warren had a very successful year this year. They love to get him involved in the offense. 7 targets, 5 catches for 45 yards. But back to what we were talking about before, I don't know if those really burned you. I think maybe in the first half, especially considering what the second half surge were in the adjustments, and Kansas City seemed to have an answer for everywhere Indiana Jones wanted to go once the pressure got a little too hot in the pocket. It was clear that he didn't want to get sacked. It was clear he didn't want to get brought down, and he was trying to get the ball out of there quickly and avoid a turnover in the pocket. Kansas City had answers to his first and second reads for the most part in that second half, and really, really quieted him out and led to some of those 3 and outs we saw down the stretch in the regulation.
Christian muted.
I'm sitting here looking at some premium stats, and Kareem Hunt on the season has 17 missed forced tackles. How many do you think he had today? 7.
Oof.
Almost half of his missed forced tackles were today. That is one of the reasons they were so successful. He was actually able to make people miss. It wasn't one of those scenarios where he gets the ball and goes down after 2 or 3 yards. He was consistently moving the sticks, and I mean that's a huge storyline in this game, is his ability to make people miss and get some extra yards.
Darren, real quick, right back to you. Any injury updates? I know Trey Smith was unable to finish. I know Rashee Rice was a little hobbled towards the end. Have you heard anything on that, being our boots on the ground there?
Well, they didn't talk much about Trey, because of course when you're injured, they don't allow touching media. With Rashee, he did talk to the media, so he's fine. I know he talked at the podium. So those are the only 2 updates that I have for you, because again, they don't let Trey, and they didn't give us any update on him.
What about the sentiment in the locker room, Darren? And you said you spoke with Chris, not being funny, but what were his thoughts? And was it more relief than elation in the locker room?
So let me say this. So Chris, because he spoke at the podium, it just chit chat conversation, but for the most part, yeah, it was a sigh of relief, so to speak, because they knew it was a big win, and they knew that they had to have this win. So it was a mix of exasperation, jubilation, and of course, trying to refocus, knowing that you got a game on Thursday. So I talked to Mike Dana, I talked to Mike Pennell. They were telling me about Spags' defensive plan that they had for Jonathan Taylor and for Daniel Jones, and they felt like they were able to execute it, to what we saw today. And of course, coming out of the half, I did ask him, what was Andy Reid's message? He just said, stay consistent, stay with the program, don't give up until the clock gets down to 0. So, they did that. And, again, now they're trying to refocus and focus on Thursday, because they know they have a short week ahead of them.
Darren, I'm putting this whole segment on your shoulders since you the work.
I mean, that's okay.
You are Kareem Hunt today. What do you make of Patrick Mahomes' performance, huh? What do you make of 15 and what he was able to do?
I give him a B-. I grade him a B-. I don't think he had a touchdown pass, but I think because of that interception, the tipped interception that he had on the opening drive, I think that played a big factor in his play. At least for the rest of the first half, because it was either short passes or handing the ball off to Kareem, and especially when they got down to the end zone, and the Kareem, I think the first time around he fumbled the football and then got it to the end zone second time around. I think he figured he needed to be more careful this time around, and but the biggest thing that I have, or the biggest gripe that I have, is that he's still kind of inaccurate trying to throw that deep pass. I mean, he's been wildly inaccurate, but he did hit the passes when it mattered most in today's game.
We briefly touched on this before, but I want to circle back on this, Chris. Why do teams take the ball first in overtime if you win the coin toss? To me, it's a no-brainer. It's just like the college rules. And it's like, I don't know why guys try to complicate this, or maybe it's an ego thing and like a masculinity, like we want the ball and we're going to score, word to Matt Hasselbeck. But like, it's very simple. You want to know what exactly you need to win the game. And the only way to do that is getting the ball second. Doesn't matter. Like, I don't understand why Indianapolis, when their offense was already sputtering, when they had really no answers for what Kansas City was doing on defense, I don't know why you take the ball first in that situation. It paid nothing for them to do that.
No, it didn't. And you go back to the last Super Bowl the Chiefs won. Same thing happened going into overtime in there. And you're sitting there, and Mahomes is sitting there shocked that the 49ers wanted the ball coming out in overtime. Like, you don't put yourself in a situation where you don't know exactly what you need to do with the NFL overtime rules at this point. So to me, I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't. But the guy was very clear that that's exactly what they wanted. The second it came out heads, he was like, "I win with the ball," and I'm like, thank you. And I'm sitting there watching the game, going, if Mahomes wins this, they're deferring. There's no doubt in my mind Patrick Mahomes is deferring on that one. And it's kind of funny because it's almost a microcosm of the way the game started. The Colts won the toss, wanted the ball as opposed to deferring, and ended up not costing Kansas City because they didn't get any points off that. And then Mahomes throws the interception and they get points off that. So it's interesting that the Colts decided to go that way. It shows that they're aggressive and they wanted to do that, but I didn't think it was the right call.
Let me. I don't want to play devil's advocate, but because I don't know what happened with the Giants and the Lions. I can't remember because it's muted down here, so I don't know who won the coin toss on there. But the Lions had the ball first, and they went down to score. So I mean, I guess it just depends on the team and the mentality, because they went first, and so because they scored, now the Giants had to go down to score, and of course they didn't, and they ended up losing the game. So I mean, I don't know. I guess it just, and look, I get both ways, and I'm used to how the Chiefs do it. So it's, so I get how and why they do it. But other teams, it worked in the Lions' favor today when they went to overtime against the Giants. Against the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, I understand both ways, because when you look at what happened today, even though they took the ball, the Colts did and got stopped, they punted it away. The Chiefs got the ball in the 5-6 yard line or something. They got the ball. Deep inside their own territory. So, you would think that you got one of the best defenses in the league. If they come up with the stop, now you force the Chiefs to punt, and now you got the ball back in good field.
And all you need is a field goal. Yep.
Right. But they weren't able to do that. And so it didn't work out, and it looks like a dumb call. But you can see both sides of it. It just didn't work out today in the Colts' favor.
I guess I get that on too. The Thanksgiving matchup as well. That's what we're finishing the Chiefs Squad Show. Give us your Thanksgiving preview, because it's our last time we'll talk to you until after the game.
Man, I think it's going to be a good game. Kansas City is in a position where they need to go out and they need to get another victory. They need to be able to string a couple of these string a couple of victories together. But it's a short week, and you have injury questions. I would guess that you're probably going to be without Noah Gray, considering it looked like he got a concussion. Trey Smith coming back on a short week on his ankle. We'll see whether or not he goes. Sounds like Rashee Rice should be able to go, which is a huge deal for the Chiefs offense. But it's not going to be a defensive battle like this one was. I think that there's going to be a lot of points scored, and I think that Kansas City should be up for it against the Dallas Cowboys. But it's can they be consistent? That's the big question.
My MVP, I know I said Kareem Hunt, but I wanted to give it to J.C. Pearson. He got the internet situation figured out. The Wi-Fi is back. The camera is crisp, man. I'm proud of you, man. I'm proud of you.
Hey, man.
Man, my man clean over there. Okay, I see you.
Hey. My guy, you know, he's still breathing and walking around. Still got his glasses on, you know.
If you're not watching this on YouTube,
don't even try.
You can
Don't
see
even
Darren
try.
Smith boxing.
Hey, he didn't want to smoke.
And J.C. Pearson's brand new setup. We appreciate y'all joining us right here on the Locked On Podcast.
Hey, before we get out of here, shout out to the Chiefs for coming through for me. 25 leg parlay hit. That's all I'm gonna say. That's my Vegas for today. You know, 25 leg parlay hit.
We couldn't finish an episode without a Vegas.
Nah, you couldn't.
Thank you very much. We're back Wednesday and Thursday as the Chiefs play on Thanksgiving this week. We'll see you next time.